Knives are the most important tool for survival, and cultures all around the world have adopted different blade designs specifically adapted to their environment. Over the past 2 years of research and filming my Highlander series, I've been learning, collecting and testing different Scottish historical knives in the field. In this video, I'll do a rundown of the blades I've collected so far, their history, uses and the stories and craftsmen behind them. I'll also share a sneak peek into a prototype Sgian Dubh survival knife I'm currently developing to sell on my website. So, stay tuned. Hi folks, Tom from Fandabi, Dozi and TomLanghorn.com. Thanks for tuning in. So I did have some other videos planned this week, but the weather has turned for the worse, so I've had to retreat indoors. But if you've seen one of my recent videos, I did a complete rundown of all my 17th century Highlander survival equipment. And that video has had a great response, got lots and lots of questions about it, and lots of people were asking me about the knives that I showed in that video. So in this video I thought I'd go over my entire Scottish historical knife collection, go into a bit more detail about the history of the different knives, and also my sort of learning journey and how the stories behind all these knives, because it's not been that easy to find historical knives that you can actually use. There's lots of ceremonial things and replicas, but it's been quite difficult to find stuff that you can actually use as a bushcraft survival knife. And through sourcing and finding all these knives, I've met some awesome craftsmen and met lots of people who are just really passionate about their trade and are trying to make a livelihood from their craft. So I'll mention all the people that I sourced these knives from, and I'll put links to all their pages in the description below, check it out. Also wanted to give you a sneak preview into the Fandabi Dozi custom survival Sgian Dubh, which is in its prototype and testing phase at the moment. This is just a simplified version that I've been playing around with, but I hope to have these in full production that I can sell on my website by the sort of end of autumn, beginning of winter of this year 2020. So stay tuned to the end of the video to find out more about that. Quite excited about that. So first, some historical context for these knives. So variants of all these knife examples in front of me have existed in Scotland from at least the Middle Ages, but probably before. And you know, examples of Sgian Dubh and dirk are even, you know, seen today as part of the modern Scottish ceremonial dress. And for centuries, aspects of Highland culture remained relatively unchanged, and it wasn't until the Jacobites were finally defeated, Battle of Culloden in 1746, did the British government started enforcing change on Highland culture. So they brought in the Disarming Act, which made it illegal for any man to carry weapons, so he couldn't carry his dirk. It was illegal to wear the plaid, the tartan was illegal, Highland dance, Highland music, this all became illegal, and it was an effort to try to stamp out the culture and to stop another uprising from happening. So the Disarming Act didn't start to lift until later on, some 1782 or something like that. But in that time, there was enough time to put a big dent, a big change in Scottish history and Highland culture. Lots and lots of clearances of land, many people removed from their homes permanently. And after that, in the Victorian era, a lot of the Highland culture was then sort of romanticised by the Victorians and sort of changed. We start to see the dress become more what we would now see as a modern kilt dress. It's becoming a bit more militarised because it was being adopted by Scottish regiments and the British military. And we start, for the knives specifically, we start seeing the Sgian Dubh and the dirk becoming more and more ceremonial, you know, more ornate, you know, very pretty, but they're becoming less and less useful as an everyday knife. When I first started the Highlander series, and you know, I was looking for some authentic historical Scottish knives that I could actually use as a survival knife, it was pretty difficult. If you Google Sgian Dubh or, you know, dirk, most of the time it comes up with these ornate ceremonial ones, and you know, especially Sgian Dubhs. We have very strict knife laws in Scotland. You can't carry a knife more than 3 inches, well, locking blade in a public place. So because Sgian Dubhs are still part of the ceremonial dress, often worn as weddings. The ones that people usually wear in weddings are either blunt, or this one doesn't even have a blade. It's got a plastic sheath, or a fake sheath. It doesn't have a blade at all. So before I go into the individual knives in the collection and tell you where I got them and stuff like that, let's just do a quick summary and history of the three main historical Scottish knives. And simply put, you have a small, a medium, and a large. Now the large, we have the dirk, or BTAC in Gaelic, and I've already got a full video talking about the dirk. It was mainly a weapon, but could be used as a tool for processing firewood, butchering animals and things like that. Now for all these historical knives, you've got to take into account that the ones that have survived to the present day were often owned by wealthier people. An example like this is very ornate, so perhaps this is an example of maybe what a wealthier person would have had. But an average man, they could have made their knives and dirk just from recycled farm tools made from the local smithy, just a basic handle, so it could be used as a weapon, an everyday tool. So that's the dirk. Now medium, we have the Sgian Dubh. In the past video I called it Achlays, but apparently it's wrong, it's Achlish. So Sgian just means knife, Achlish is armpit, so typically worn in a holster on the armpit. Now what I've been trying out is basically just a simple cord that would hold your holster in that sort of position. I haven't really found many historical examples of the holster, but to me that makes sense. And there are typically they look similar to a medieval hunting knife, and that's what they're mainly for, butchering animals, cooking, things like that. Finally, the smallest but arguably the most famous Scottish knife, the Sgian Dubh. So this was the sort of everyday carry knife. You'd use it for small whittling tasks, for eating your food, things like that, and it was typically worn in a jacket pocket, but you now see it being worn tucked into the sock as part of the modern dress. Now there's a theory that I heard on why you now see it being worn in the sock, because practically speaking it's not a very good place to put your knife, especially if you have to walk through deep heather and things like that. At least I found it's not a practical place to store your knife. But theory on why we now see that as part of the modern dress is that in the Highlands they had a rich hospitality culture, so you would welcome in strangers and travellers into your house, give them some food, give them a place to stay for the night. But the common etiquette was you leave your weapons outside, you leave them in the barn, you don't take them inside. But you're allowed to bring your Sgian Dubh with you because you used it for eating. But to sort of show that you weren't hiding anything, you would take it out of your pocket and tuck it into the top of your sock to kind of show, that's all I've got. I've left my weapons, there's my Sgian Dubh, just for eating. So that's the theory. Who knows if it's true, but an interesting theory. So the word, Sgian again is knife, and Dubh just means black. Now there's a couple of theories on why it's called that. Either because the handle was often made from bog oak, which is just oak wood that's been preserved in the peat bogs and it's got a black colour, or because it was for black deeds, so it was like a hidden weapon. So there's a couple of theories on why it's called Sgian Dubh. So when I first started the Highlander series back in 2018, I didn't actually have any usable Scottish historical knives to use in my first few videos. So my first overnight video was actually using a Scandinavian style knife because that's all I had. Someone got in contact and pointed me towards Matty from Flitforge, who's based up in Aberdeenshire. So I got in contact with him and arranged to go meet him, and I did a video on him making this knife. I think the video is called Forging a Real Sgian Dubh, but we went for something a bit bigger than a typical Sgian Dubh, but this is made from a recycled piece of metal from a tractor, and the handle is red deer antler, and a piece of oak from a whiskey cask. Matty makes a lot of his handles from reclaimed oak from whiskey casks, so often they still have a really nice whiskey smell even years later. And I made a sheath from it. Matty gave me some other bits of whiskey cask oak, and yeah, I just made fairly simple, heavy duty wooden sheath, carved a basic Celtic knot into it, a leather belt loop, and it fits really nice. So that was my first one in the collection, and I used that on a few trips and a few videos. Then after that, I asked Matt if he could make me a usable dirk, and I think it was the first one he might have ever made. But since then, since that video, a lot of people have got in contact with him and asked him to make more. We're going for something that, you know, was a bit more sort of common man. It wasn't as ornate as this one. And also I wanted something a wee bit shorter because I was mainly interested in using it as a bushcraft knife, as a sort of chopper. So we went for something a bit shorter and a bit thicker. The blade is 4mm thick, and Matty just made a sort of a basic oak handle, and I shaped the handle and decorated it to make it a bit more dirk looking. And I made a very simple leather sheath for it, but it's a bit tight. I think I'm probably going to make another wooden one. I like wooden sheaths. I like the yeah, I just like wooden sheaths. Later on, he sent me a Sgian Dubh. So again, he had a slightly bigger, more simplified handle, and I changed the handle a bit so it was a bit smaller, and I treated it with a natural agent to make it age, to make it go darker. Yeah, I think it's also 4mm, so it's a sort of heavy duty Sgian Dubh, so pretty good for bushcraft stuff, but maybe a bit thick for other tasks like chopping veggies and small whittling tasks and things. So that's what he made me after that, and then I just made, again, just a really simple wooden sheath, so that fits in quite nicely. And a more recent purchase is this dirk, which is from Todd's Workshop. Now if you haven't seen his YouTube channel, definitely recommend going and checking it out. Yeah, it's a really popular YouTube channel. He does everything historical weapon related, and this was on his website for a really reasonable price, and I saw it, and I think I emailed him and said, could you actually use that as a bushcraft knife? Can you use it for chopping things? And he was pretty confident in it, so I bought it. So all his daggers and knives come already sharp, but you can pay a bit more and get it sort of extra sharp, razor sharp. But my fault, I was a bit stupid in ordering it and I forgot to select that. So it's sharp but not completely sharp. So I have been meaning to do a review of this and actually, test it out a wee bit, but I just haven't really got round to sharpening it properly. It's fine, like right now I can still take wood shavings off it, and I've done a wee bit of chopping with it, but it's still not as sharp as I'd like it. So that's something to work on a future video. But it is a really beautiful blade, and yeah, absolutely great for the price. Hardwood handle, it's got these brass ornate pummel and hilt. Just really beautiful blade, so go check out Todd's Workshop. I also got this because it looks more like a typical dirk. So when I was planning to do a lot of events before the whole coronavirus thing hit and they all got cancelled, but I wanted to have a more classic looking dirk for my outfit, so that's why I got that. Since my survival equipment video, I use this example as the Sgian Aklish, the medium-sized knife, because I didn't have a sort of more historical looking one. And since that video, I think that morning Matt from Fletforge went to his forge and made me this. So it's got a deer bone handle and just a really simple lashing bind. So you wouldn't want to be batoning it or abusing it too bad, but that's not what this knife is for. It's for mainly butchering animals and things like that. So again, I've done a wee bit of testing just on wood and stuff like that. As I haven't had this for very long, just a few weeks, but really cool looking knife. But huge thanks to Matt for sending me that. And just the other day, this arrived in the post. Another example of a Sgian Dubh, and this is from Thomas from Avalon Forgecraft in Glastonbury. And yeah, again, he saw my survival equipment video, saw that I didn't have a historical version one, so he sent me this, and really beautiful example. He's got a brass hilt, red deer antler handle, a brass pin, and then it's some sort of hardwood pummel. So I just got this the other day, again, just giving it a quick test on some wood, but he said he's butchered a deer with it before. So it sounds like it can do the job. Came with a really nice wet formed leather sheath, so that really happy with that. Yeah, I'm gonna also play around with wearing this, and looking forward to testing this out as well. So huge thank you Thomas for sending this. That's really cool. You should go check out his forge. Again, I'll put links to all the guys, all the different craftsmen that I've mentioned. Finally, the newest to the collection, and the moment you've all been waiting for, the Fandabi Dozi custom survival Sgian Dubh, or at least the prototype. So this is a collaboration project with Steve from Field and Steel, who has a knife business based in Yorkshire. Go check out his Instagram below. And so he's making the blades, and I will be making the handles and the sheath system. And with this project, I wanted to make a Sgian Dubh that looked historical, so you could wear it as part of a historical reenactment group. I also wanted it to sort of be fairly slim and lightweight, so you could wear it as part of the modern kilt dress. You could tuck it in your sock. But I also wanted it to have features of a bushcraft knife that I like, so you'd actually want to use it every day. You can potter around the workshop, take it camping, hunting, fishing, stuff like that. So the blade is 3 1/4 inches long. It's got a Scandinavian bevel, which is a common feature for bushcraft knives because it's easy to sharpen and it's really good for woodwork and things like that. We have some aspects of historical knives, such as the false bevel and these little notches, but on the left side of the blade I have a nice sharp 90-degree spine, which I really like for processing timber and taking sparks off my ferro rod. The handle is solid oak with brass pins. The final version will probably have a brass pommel, but as I said, this is just the simplified version I've been testing. The sheath so far is made from the same oak as the handle. As I said, I really like wooden sheaths, but I'm still playing around with different ways of attaching it. Also playing around with a leather sheath option. So to hold the knife in the sheath, I'm trying out a few things. I've tried leather, I've tried some wooden friction clips which look really cool. I've also been playing around with some different belt loops. So I want to make sure I'm 100% happy with it before I start making and selling them. So over the next few months I'm going to be playing around with this prototype and putting it through its paces, make sure I'm happy with it, and then the plan is I'll probably make a sort of standard version, and then I'll have options to customize it, so you can choose different types of wood, red deer antler inlays, custom engravings, things like that. So hopefully, if all goes to plan, I can be in full production and start selling these on my website winter 2020. So stay tuned for that. So thanks so much for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed this video. Huge thanks to all my patrons and supporters for help keeping this channel going. Go check out my Patreon if you're interested. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Cheers.